What if I told you that the being you've been praying for, waiting for, expecting to descend from the clouds surrounded by trumpets and armies of angels, has already walked among us? Not in a palace, not on a throne, not announced on CNN or BBC, but in a subway station in Chicago, in a refugee camp in Greece, on a broken bench in East London, feeding pigeons alone. This isn't mythology. This isn't metaphor. This is the hidden spiritual intelligence that every major tradition tried to encode into their most sacred texts, and the one truth that power structures have spent centuries trying to bury. Stay with me for the next 15 minutes, because what I'm about to share will permanently shift how you see every single person you walk past on the street. Every civilization, separated by oceans, by centuries, by language, independently arrived at the same terrifying, beautiful conclusion: that a singular divine consciousness would choose to incarnate inside ordinary human flesh. In the Hindu tradition, this is the Kalki avatar, the 10th and final descent of Vishnu, prophesied to arrive not as a king in golden armor, but as an ordinary man born in an ordinary village, who would walk among the corrupt and the broken before the great turning. In the Christian mystical tradition, not the sanitized Sunday school version, but the raw, Gnostic, early church tradition, the return of Christ was never meant to be a literal man floating down on a cloud. The Gnostic Gospel of Thomas, discovered in Nag Hammadi in 1945, contains this line: "The kingdom of the Father is spread upon the earth, and men do not see it." In Sufism, the mystical heart of Islam, the concept of the Insan al-Kamil, the perfect human, teaches that God's fullest expression doesn't appear in temples or mosques. It walks, bleeds, doubts, and loves in human skin. The Hopi prophecy of the blue star Kachina, the Mayan concept of the returning feathered serpent, Quetzalcoatl, who they said would return not in triumph, but in humility. The Jewish Lamed Vav, the tradition that at any given moment, 36 righteous souls are holding the world together through their hidden goodness. You would never know who they are. That's the entire point. All these traditions are pointing at the same sacred secret. The chosen one doesn't look chosen. That's the test. That is the teaching. Now let's get specific, because this is where it gets unsettling in the most beautiful way. Every figure history later identified as divinely chosen or spiritually transformative, every single one, was mocked, dismissed, or completely invisible during their peak years of embodiment. Jesus of Nazareth was a carpenter. He didn't write a single word that we know of. He had no official title. The Roman Empire, the most powerful administrative machine on earth at the time, didn't even acknowledge his existence in any official document until decades after his death. He walked through markets. People bumped into him, argued with him, dismissed him. Rumi, the 13th century poet whose work is now the best-selling poetry in North America, 700 years after his death, lived most of his life as an unremarkable religious scholar in what is now Turkey. The transformation that turned him into the voice of divine love, it came from a friendship with a wandering mystic that society considered a madman. Nikola Tesla, whose revelations about electrical consciousness bordered on the mystical, who claimed his greatest ideas arrived as complete visions rather than step-by-step logic, died alone in a hotel room, broke, dismissed, while the people who'd stolen his work were celebrated as geniuses. The pattern isn't subtle once you see it. The pattern is divine intelligence incarnates into circumstances that guarantee it will be overlooked by those operating purely from ego and social status. Because that's the filter. The chosen one is only visible to those who have done enough inner work to see past the costume. And here's the part that should stop you cold. We are living right now in the exact window every single one of these traditions pointed to as the time of the great revelation, the convergence point, the moment when the veil thins enough that the hidden becomes visible, but only to those who have developed the eyes to see. Something is happening in the Western world that cannot be fully explained by sociology or psychology alone. In the United States, you have what researchers are now calling the Great Awakening. And no, I don't mean the political hashtag. I mean the documented, measurable explosion of people leaving institutional religion while simultaneously reporting the most intense spiritual experiences of their lives. The Pew Research Center found that while church attendance has dropped to its lowest point in a century, belief in spiritual forces, divine purpose, and personal encounters with transcendent reality is at an all-time high. In Europe, historically the most secular region on Earth, there is a hunger, a yearning that is breaking through the rational surface like a river breaking through concrete. Meditation centers in Berlin are turning away thousands. The Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela in Spain sees over 400,000 pilgrims annually. Not tourists, pilgrims, people who walked hundreds of miles on foot searching for something they cannot name. What are they all looking for? What is this ache that Netflix cannot satisfy, that a promotion cannot fill, that a perfectly curated Instagram life cannot quiet? They are looking for the chosen one. But the real secret that every mystical tradition has been screaming from the rooftops for millennia is this: the chosen one is not coming to save you from yourself. The chosen one is coming to awaken what is already inside you. The prophecies were never about one person descending to fix everything. They were always about a consciousness, a frequency, arriving in the world to activate the divine potential that is sleeping inside every human soul. The chosen one doesn't replace your journey. The chosen one is a tuning fork that makes your own dormant frequencies ring. So how would you recognize this energy if it appeared in front of you today? The traditions are remarkably specific. The chosen one energy does not arrive with validation. It doesn't need your approval to know what it is. It carries a specific quality that mystics across traditions have tried to describe. A profound stillness that feels paradoxically more alive than anything else in the room. The Quakers called it that of God in every person. Buddhist traditions call it Buddha nature. Indigenous traditions call it the original medicine. The people who carry the highest concentrations of this energy are usually the ones who have been through the most fire. Not despite it, because of it. Because the soul that agreed to carry divine consciousness into the densest possible human circumstances had to develop the spiritual density to hold it. Gold is forged in the highest heat. This is why the chosen one energy often shows up in the most unexpected demographics. In someone who grew up in poverty in Detroit and somehow radiates a peace that makes millionaires uncomfortable. In a refugee who arrived in Germany with nothing, and within 3 years is quietly healing the trauma of everyone around them. In the exhausted single mother in Manchester who has never read a spiritual book in her life, but whose simple presence makes strangers feel safe enough to cry. You have met people like this. I know you have. And in that moment of meeting, something in you recognized them before your mind could explain why. That recognition, that is not coincidence. That is the deepest part of your own divine nature performing its ancient function, identifying its own kind. Here is what I want to leave you with, and I want you to sit with this for the rest of your day. The reason every ancient tradition placed so much emphasis on the recognition of the chosen one is because the recognition itself is the spiritual practice. Your ability to see divinity in every nation, wearing every face, in every nation, wearing every face, speaking every language, carrying every wound. The only question has ever been whether humanity had developed enough spiritual sight to recognize what was standing in front of them. You are watching this video for a reason. The fact that these words are landing in you the way they are, that ache of recognition you feel right now, is not accidental. Something in you already knows what you are. The question is whether you are ready to stop waiting for the chosen one to arrive and start living as though the divine consciousness within you has already been chosen. Because it has. It always has. Welcome to the awakening. Like and subscribe to Vibe Spirit Guide. Comment below, have you ever met someone whose presence you recognized as spiritually significant? Your story could help someone else remember who they are.